and yeah, we'll go from there. So yeah, welcome to another day at the boot camp. And today we're going to be going over the projects. Let me scroll down to the project section. So that just so people know where we're expected to be. We already went through the introduction. It's everyone's been through this section. The HTML CS section should be done. This on to JavaScript section should be done as well. And even if like we don't understand everything in the JavaScript, we'll go over and like use a lot of that stuff like during the projects. Let me see. And let me see, the JavaScript tools section, it should be done as well. And if it's not done, it's fine. Just make sure, it's definitely done before next class. And what else? Yeah, more CSS. This section should be done as well. Just that these are those advanced CSS concepts. And today we're going to work on this one here, to find the opening the project slider. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically show y'all like the thought process behind this, and then I'm gonna have y'all do the second app here, this time app right here. In the time app, y'all will have the class to do it. One of y'all would share the screen, and then both of y'all would just kind of like tackle it together. And I'll obviously show what the app does, and then I'll be here as like a resource to help y'all kind of go through these projects. Hopefully y'all already came to these projects already. Like you've already been in week 3 through the modules, which will be really helpful. Because moving forward, we're just going to keep knocking out these projects. We're not going to do all of them just for the sake of time. We're going to definitely do the most important ones, and I'll tell y'all which ones to go through whenever we in the class. And something to note. Something to note is that even if we skip the projects, I still want y'all to do these like at home, like the ones that we skipped. I still want y'all to do those at home, because they still have good concepts in them that we're gonna use. So let me just open up this one and download the actual code, the starter code. If you haven't already noticed, in the first video of these projects, there's a download section. It says opening the starter code here, and the starter code basically gives you a starting point of where to start. And I'm gonna click this actually, so we can open this up. And see, I'm gonna open this up in VS Code. Okay, minimize that. Yes, sir. Okay. All right, cool. So I'm opening this up in a browser as well. Let me do that. Go inside of here. And as always, we always click on the index.html file to open up the app in the browser. And this is what we will see for our first project. Actually, before we start this, I definitely want y'all to download the starter code. I'll give y'all like until like 10:15 to download this. This again is in I wonder, I can probably just paste in this link right here. That's the link. And if that don't work for you, we are basically here where it says final project 1. You want to click on portfolio overview part 1. This is the one you want to click on. So once you click on that, portfolio overview part 1, and let me put this in the chat so that y'all know where to look. Y'all want to hold on. Actually, it's not that one. Let me go back. Wasn't a portfolio overview. Hold on. Let me go back to here. Opening project slide part 1. This is it actually. And let me go to it from the actual list. Where is it? Let me go back to modules. Hold on. I actually have to go all the way back. I think I messed up something up. Let me scroll down. That's the JavaScript sections, the CSS. Here we go. So week 3. This is where we need to be. Week 3, and then here we go. Open project slide part 1. This is what we need right here. Copy link address, and that should be it. After y'all get there, y'all can just download, press this here, opening starter zip. So yeah, I'll go on mute until 10:15 to give y'all some time to download that. And I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Let's see what time is it? 10:13. And while we wait for y'all to download that, basically, I'll just do a quick explanation of like what the portfolio looks like. So basically, we have a place where you have to put your name, and you got to put your own picture here. So if you don't have a picture, it's fine. You can just replace it later on. And also, you have to replace your text. Maybe say something about yourself. I will probably keep this under a certain amount of characters. Let me double check what that is in a minute. Yeah, I will keep that between 360 and 450 characters long. The section where you kind of describe about yourself. The reason I will keep it in between that is because that's what kind of fits in this space. So anything under that amount of characters. So basically, I just wanted to show y'all where y'all would replace some of that stuff. This is where you would replace your name. So that's just line 25 here. If you literally open up the HTML file, it's the first div, that very first div here. So you replace your name here, and you replace the description of yourself here on line 33. So let me write that in the chat. So line 25 for name and $33 or about you. What else? And also on the picture as well. So this right here is the user picture. As you can see, we're not using an image tag, but we're using like a div. And because we're using a div, we could probably guess that we're using a background color inside of the CSS file. I mean, background, let me see, the background image. Hold on, let me double check this. It says user photo. Let's figure out where this is coming from. It looks like that is inside of, yeah, user pick, and we have, yeah, background image. So in the CSS file, we have this background image right here, and we're using something a little bit different. This is something I wanted to go over really quick, just so that, you know, everybody knows what these are. These are basically variables that you can use in CSS. You can use variables in CSS. I'm not sure if I went over this in the actual course or not, but usually whenever you set an image, what you want to do is you want to set it equal to a URL, like the URL would be the actual, this would be the actual place where the image comes from. But instead of putting the URL, what we did was put a reference to a variable, and that reference to a variable is me. I just named it -- me. If I search that in this file, I can see the very first things here are all of the variables that we're using, and the URL that I see that this me variable is pointing to is inside of the assets folder, and it's called me.png. So if I scroll down to me.png here, I can see that there's a picture of myself. Okay. So what I want y'all to do, whenever you do have a picture of yourself, you want to upload the picture here. You want to upload the picture here and then change the name of this right here, of this section. Right now, it's called me.png. So you can name yours me if you want, but yours may not be a PNG file. I guess whenever you upload it, you'll see like the actual name of it and the extension, and that's what you want to replace this whole thing with. So when you upload yours, maybe yours might be me.jpg or something like that, or whatever else kind of image files y'all have. But either way, y'all gonna replace that here. So that is that. So that's how y'all, you know, make this your own. Right now, I'm gonna show y'all how to open up the side projects here. So right now, basically, whenever you press this show projects button, we're supposed to see something, some projects slide out. And I'm actually going to bring up the final code as well, so that we can see like the example of that. I'm gonna just open up the finished code. Is it code in 6 figures? Let's go down to the last project so we can get the final code. It's here. We have, and actually, let me actually go back. I'm going to go to the section that we were in, because the finished code is there as well, and I want to show y'all where that is. So we have opening the project slides right here. We have part 1, 2, and 3. Always in the last part. So in part 3, if I click on that, I'm gonna see the complete code. See, open underscore complete zip. So if I click that, it's going to download, and I should be able to. Where is it at? This is the complete. I should be able to see the complete code. So I'm going to open this up in the browser really quick. So basically, whenever we're done the coding today, we should be able to do this. We should be able to open up these projects on the side here. Just like that. So we are here where we're not able to open up the projects. So the first place to start is to try to figure out how to make something happen in the JavaScript side by pushing this button. And if we open up the dev tools, if I go to the console, literally every time I press this button, it's telling me that there's an error right here. It says toggle projects is not defined. The reason it's saying that is because some of the HTML is hooked up and some of it isn't. If I go to the actual HTML page and I search for toggle projects, we can see that that show projects button has an on click and is running this toggle projects function. The problem is that this toggle projects function is not defined anywhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to create that. We're going to create that function. We'll create that inside of the JavaScript file and inside of, I think we're going to put it, hold on, let me just see where I put it at inside of the complete code, just so we can be consistent. I'm pretty sure that was in like the main file though. Okay, yeah, main.js. Okay, all right, cool. So we have put this inside of main.js, and I'll go over what this is doing in a second. Literally, the solution is very like minimal, right? So basically what this is doing is it's targeting something called dashboard, and then it's adding an attribute to dashboard. The attribute that it's going to add is off screen. And just to show you what off screen is, anything with an attribute of off screen gets this CSS rule. We didn't go over these type of selectors. You can actually select by attribute as well. For example, if I wanted to select everything that has an ID attribute, not like image selection, like if it has this ID attribute at all anywhere, I can target everything with the ID attribute. If I want to target everything with the autoplay attribute, I can do that as well. If I want to target everything with the muted attribute, I can do that as well. And the way you target by attribute is by putting it inside of square brackets, just like this. Okay. So what I can show you is let me just go to the actual HTML. I'm gonna go to dashboard here, and hold on. Yeah, if I click on this off screen here and delete this, what's going to happen is we're going to see the project section come up. And the reason the project section come up is because it no longer has that styling of the offset of the off screen. This basically moved it to the right 24M. When you move it to the right, it starts to become off screen. So if I do -1M, we can see that the more we move this over, the more it's removed from the actual screen until we get to 24, which is completely being removed from the screen. And that's what that off-screen CSS rule did for us when we had it there. So I'm gonna just refresh real quick, just so that nothing. So after I refresh, nothing works. So I never save the code. I go here. basically it's targeting the dashboard like I just showed. The dashboard was, copy this, and find dashboard. Dashboard is here. This is literally every single project that we have. We have the video player, we have the password generator, we have the inspirational quote calendar, the memory square game, every single app is here. And we can also see that, I wrote comments for in this section where like where everything is actually is inside of the project section. So this whole div, everything inside of this div right here is pulled off screen because we have this here. So what I had did was I targeted the dashboard, I put it into an actual HTML element, and then I passed this element to this toggle attribute function. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to this toggle attribute function and basically show what that looks like. We have to actually create this. We have to create this in a second. Let me create this here. Toggle attribute. So toggle attribute is going to take two parameters. It's going to take an element. This is an HTML element, and it's also going to take a class or an attribute. The goal of this is to toggle the attribute, is to basically say, okay, like if we have this attribute, remove it. But if we don't have this attribute, you want to add it. So with JavaScript, the way you check to see if something has an attribute, you want to get the element. You want to say dot, hold on, my autocomplete is not working here, so I'm gonna do it here on this side. Dashboard dot, it should be something with attribute, has attribute here. There's a has attribute method. So I'm gonna put this here, has attribute, and then I'm gonna pass in the attribute there. The reason I had to make this dot here to get this auto completion is because VS Code knows that this is an HTML element. Like since we explicitly set this to an HTML element here, it knows to give this variable all of the properties and methods of an HTML element, which is why I'm able to see everything here. So that's what that was. So this is how we check to see if something has an attribute. So if it has attribute, what we want to do is we want to remove the attribute because we're toggling it. Else, so if it does not have the attribute, we want to add the attribute. That's basically what we have to do right there. So we have to figure out the methods to add an attribute and to remove an attribute. So I'm just gonna go to the variable and press dot and start typing the attribute just to see what's available to us. If we want to add an attribute, we have to use this set attribute here. Set attribute, I'm going to add the parentheses. And from here, we can see that it takes a string and it takes a value. So this string is the attribute name and the value is the value of the attribute. As we can see from here, we have the attribute of offset, but it does not have a value there. So whenever it don't have a value, we have to put an empty string for that second parameter. So what I'll do is I'll copy this here and do element dot set attribute. We want to wait. This is actually we actually need to put this here because this is where we add the attribute. We want to set attribute. What this took was the attribute, and it took the value, which is going to be an empty string. So let me figure out how to remove an attribute. To remove an attribute, we had this remove attribute function. I'll put the parentheses. It tells us that all it takes is the qualified name, which is just the attribute name. So I'm going to use this down here. It's going to be element dot remove attribute, and we're going to add the attribute here. Let me remove that, save this. And we're gonna go to the browser after I put a debugger here because I want y'all to see this actually play out in the debugger. Just do a refresh, just so that we can capture everything that was saved. If I hit this show projects button, nothing is happening. Off screen is not defined. Main CSS3. Oh, we have to actually define this this variable. All that is a string that says off screen. That's all that is. The reason I put it into a variable is just in case we use this same string variable somewhere else. That's the reason why it goes into a variable. But yeah, I'm gonna save that, go back here, refresh, and hit show projects. As we can see, we passed in the element, which is the dashboard. See a div with the ID of dashboard, and the attribute is off screen right there. So we're going to check if we already have the attribute. Hover over this, it's true that this element has that attribute. And we can even check, like we can manually check this as well. If I hover over an element, I can scroll down to, should be in attributes. Attributes here. See, we can see that it has an ID, it has an off, and it has an offset attribute. So this has two attributes actually. And one of these is off screen, which is why this is set to true. And since that's set to true, what we're going to do is we're going to remove that attribute and hit play. And we can see that the dashboard popped out there. And if, obviously, if I hit this button again, this show projects button again, it goes in here, has attribute. This is false now because we removed the attribute. And we can even see it again if we hover over element and then go down to attributes. The only thing that has is the ID. You can see it right there. So this is false. And it goes into the else, and it's going to set the attribute. It's going to set the off-screen attribute to nothing. So I'm hit play, and it removes the project section. Okay. So we can open it and we can remove it. Open it, remove it. And yeah, that's that. And from here, we can start cleaning up this file. It's always good to get things working before you start cleaning stuff up. And whenever you start like cleaning this up, basically you want to, first of all, whenever you make, different functions, you want the names to be as generic as possible. We name this toggle attribute and not like toggle offset attribute. This is just toggle attribute. The reason we named it like that is because this could potentially be used in different files. So whenever we have something that we can potentially use in different files, we want to move it to what's called the util.js file. So that's in here now. I'm gonna save this. So this toggle attribute is inside of util.js. So main.js has access to it. I'm gonna remove this as well, the string, and I'll put that here inside of util.js as well, just in case we want to use this string inside of a different file. I'm gonna save this. Then I'll further explain like why this file knows about things that's in this file. Let's just test this out real quick to see if this works. I just refreshed. If I click this, it opens it up, and if I click it again, it closes it. Now I'm gonna go into like why this file knows about these things. If we go to the HTML and scroll all the way to the bottom, we can see that there's a few different JavaScript files here. Whenever the HTML file is being read, it reads this file from top to bottom. So the first JavaScript file that it comes in contact with is this util.js file here, which is inside of the JavaScript folder. That's this one here, this same one that we just put all of those things in. As the HTML reads, as the browser reads the HTML file, it keeps going down and down. It keeps reading downward. So everything that's inside of this file is known inside of every file that's underneath it because it already went to that JavaScript file. Everything that's inside of this file is known within everything that's underneath it. No JavaScript file on top of this knows about it. Only the things that's underneath it knows about it. The same thing for this, the same thing for this, so on and so forth. So what we want to do is we want to put all of the common JavaScript stuff or the stuff that all of the other JavaScript files are going to use. We want to put that inside of the util.js file, and we want to add that before everything else. So the order matters here. So since the main file, main.js, is all the way at the bottom, it knows about every JavaScript file, including the util.js, which is why when we use toggle attribute and we use off screen, it automatically knows what that is, off screen and toggle attribute here. And just to drive a point really quick, if I was to define this here, this toggle attribute, this would if be defined in two different places, here inside of main.js and here inside of util.js. Let's see if the browser like tells us anything. This should give us an error. See, if I refresh this, it says toggle attribute has already been declared. This is a prime example of why we should always use var and const. I mean, not var, let and const, and never use var. Even if I said let here, save that, and say let right here, and save that. I'm gonna refresh over here, and it tells us the same thing. This has already been declared. See, so now we don't have to worry about so from here inside of the HTML, we can see that all of these JavaScript files are interacting with each other in some kind of way because they know about each other, or they know about everything that's on top of them anyway. Using let and const is a way for us to make sure that we only use unique function names. I'm going to turn this back to const here. This is a really good example of that. I'm going to refresh, and we got rid of that error. Okay. This error, let me see, OOP helper JS. Let me see something. I think that error is something that'll go away once we get to that project, but let me just double check. OOP, what was that? Starter JS, OOP JS, or OOP helper. Oh, there's no file. Okay, so this error right here, this is something I actually had to correct in the course. Actually, I'm glad I just looked at this. So it says file not found. It's not able to find OOP helper.js. And we can see that error on line 496 of the HTML file. If I go to the HTML file and I go to 496, we can see OOP helper.js right here. And it's basically telling us that we don't have this file inside of the JavaScript folder, and we don't have that there. So what I'm gonna do after class is I'm gonna create that, and I'll add that to the folder, just so that we don't get that error. If I refresh on this side, we don't get the error anymore because that file is there. Okay. So let me see. So that's that. We will take a quick break at 10. We'll take a quick break, a quick 15 minutes. Right now it's 10:40. We'll come back at 10:55, and then we'll basically start knocking out the first project. The first one was the time at, and I think that is, let me just go to not that. I'll actually go over what the project looks like when we get back. We'll be back at 10:55. Okay. We'll take a quick break.
All right.
All right, I'm back. We'll start in 2 minutes. I'm gonna stop sharing for a little bit. We'll just start back in 2 minutes. And what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna show the solution for the time app. I'm actually gonna just run through it. I think it's probably better for me to just kind of like go through a few of these, since we have like a lighter class today. I'm gonna show the solution, and then I'm gonna break down like what's happening in the code. If there's questions, definitely let me know. But let me share my screen. So I have the time at completed here. Let me open this up in VS Code. And I'm also going to open it up in a browser. Click on this, open up the index.html file. All right, cool. So this is in the browser. Now what this should look like whenever complete, we should be able to, where's the time? Here we go. We should be able to see this here. The time at kind of tick right now is 10:55 and 38, 39, 40 seconds. Something to note is that this time is coming from my computer. If I was to change the time on my computer, this time will change as well. And it looks like my battery is about to run out. So let me go and grab my charger really quick. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back and computer's charged. Okay. So yeah, like I was saying, this time comes from my actual computer. So what I'm about to show is something that is how to create this, but just know that like what I'm about to show you isn't something like is not something that's used very often. But I wanted to show you, I wanted to put this in the course because first of all, just in case somebody wanted to reference some kind of time in their app. And second, to just show you how it's done, because a lot of this stuff is just like the same patterns over and over again. So basically, I'm going to open up the HTML so I can quickly show the time app. So we have video player, we have password generator, inspirational quote, memory square, tic-tac-toe, whack-a-mole, game settings, OOP. We have the clock right here. Okay. So this is what we have right now. So let me, this is all of the HTML basically that is for this. In the CSS, you can sort of just look on it on your end. But this is the HTML. We just have the hour, we have the minute and the second here. if I'm gonna quickly I'm gonna quickly comment out all of this stuff so that actually I'm gonna just comment this out really quick just so that we can see what this started as. I'm gonna do a refresh and go down to the time app, and we can see that it says 8:25 p.m. and then it says 2 seconds. That is coming from the HTML. We'll go back to the HTML. It says 8:25, 2 seconds, and it's PM. So that's where everything comes from. So the hour, the minute, the second, and the daytime. I didn't really know what to name this one, but I just named the daytime here. So if I go back to the JavaScript, I'm gonna start to dissect this. And I'm doing like this because sometimes y'all have to read other people's code, and it's better, like it's a good practice to understand what's going on, like to understand, like to know how to read someone else's code. So I'm gonna put a debugger here. I'm gonna save this. And the reason I knew to comment this out is because literally everything in here are functions. See, everything is functions. And the only place we call the function is inside of this set interval right here. So, and remember, functions don't run on their own. We actually have to call them. So I'll put a debugger here, right? And we're going to start going through all of these functions. And something to note is that every function has a very descriptive name. Add 0 to number if less than 10. That's very generic and very simple, straight to the point name. Get hour, get minute, get second, get time of day, get HTML, set date. Everything here has a very descriptive name, and we'll see that as we debug through this. Okay, I'm gonna refresh this. I'm gonna refresh. So we already hit the debugger. This runs even though we didn't open up the project section right away. It still runs. So we hit the debugger, and the first function that we're going to go inside of is set date. Very descriptive. We're setting the date. I'm going to press this downward arrow to go inside of that. And we have a few different things here. We have a few different variables, hour, minute, second, and we have this function called set HTML. We're passing it hour, minute, and second. But something I want you to notice is that here we can see that these variables are set with functions here. See, they're set with different functions. And when you see something like this, generally the function is returning something. So if I'm right here on line 56. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press this downward button so that we can step into the function, or we can just navigate through it by just pressing this button by itself, this step button. I'm gonna click this step button, and it's gonna go inside of get hours, because that's where the JavaScript is going into. Basically, the way this flows is we see this function, we go inside of that, we get to line 56, and then we see another function call. Then we go inside of that. After we finish that function, we move to line 57, and then we see this function, we go inside of that one. After we finish everything inside of this function, we go to line 58, so on and so forth. We're basically running through this in order, and that's how JavaScript works. Everything runs in order. So we're inside of the get hours function. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to make use of the date object. The date object is a built-in JavaScript object that allows you to manipulate the date and to get the current date and stuff like that. So if I press this button, I'm gonna hover over time. Now we have the current date time. We have the date here, and we have the time right here. We even have the time zone. I'm in Eastern Standard Time, so it's a little cutoff right here, but that's what that is. And from there, since this is now an object, we can see that this is an object right here. If we open this up, we can see that it has different properties and methods. You might be wondering, like, what prototype is. In JavaScript, prototype is basically prototype contains additional properties and methods that an object has. And this object has a few different properties and methods. Has say get date, get day, get full year, get hour, get milliseconds, get minute. Everything has to do with time here. So let me say set UTC month, say set UTC second. Like there's a lot of things here that I have never actually written or actually used before, but you know, as you use them, you want to look them up to figure out what they do and to figure out which ones you need. The thing that I need is I need the hour. So this time, if I open this up, it has a method in here called get hours right here. See? So I'm going to set another variable and it's going to be set to whatever this get hours function returns. If I press this, it returned back in 11. Okay. Because right now we're at the 11, we're at 11:04 right now. Technically, I'm not sure what the minute is going to say, but we're the hour is 11. So it says 11 here, and we have a little check right here. We're basically saying if the hour is greater than 12, we want to subtract 12 from the hour. The reason we're doing this is because this hour is given back to us in military time. So if it's 1 o'clock, this is going to be equal to 13. And then if it is equal to 13, that would be greater than 12. We would have to do the hour, which would be 13, equals the hour, which is 13 minus 12. So 13 minus 12 is 1. And that would turn to a 1. This hour would turn to a 1 if it was 1 o'clock. So that's how this works. This is how you convert military time back to like the 12-hour time. But we don't have to worry about that check right now because we're still on the 11th hour. And this is going to return back in 11. Something I really, really want to emphasize is that this function name was get hour. Everything inside of this function had to do with getting the hour. We didn't do anything extra here. There was no side things that we needed to do. There was nothing like that. The only thing they did was getting the hour. This is going to be a common occurrence and something I want to point out as a best practice and in a way that a practice that we should use moving forward. Functions should do one thing and only one thing. And if it's going to do more than one thing, it's calling other functions to do those like things. For example, you may have one function that calls a bunch of other functions, and that's all that function does. But each of those individual functions will do something very specific to what the function name is, which is, in this case, is getting the hour. So this returns us back the 11. I'm gonna press this button right here, this step button. It's gonna see the return value. We see it right here. It's gonna be 11. Hit this, and now if we hover over hour, we get 11. We're gonna do the same thing with minute. I'm gonna press this step button. I'm gonna go inside of get minute. So we get the time, and then we use another method called get minutes. If I hover over time and open up this prototype, we can see that get minutes is actually a function here. I'm gonna press next. The minute is the 6th minute. It looks like it gives us the current minute. So we had 11 already. Now it's 11:06. So it's giving us the 6th minute because it's grabbing the time from our computer. So that's 6. And now we're going to return 6. Okay? Return value 6. Minute is now 6. Same thing for seconds. I'm going to press this to go inside and get seconds. It goes in there. It creates the time variable. It gets the seconds because it has that method. The second is 15, and then it's going to return 15. So your return value here. And that is set inside of here. Now that we have the hour, the minute, and the second, we're going to go inside of set HTML. I'm going to press this step button so that we can go inside of that. We have the hour, 11, the minute, 6, the seconds is 15. And we also have another variable called time of day. This time of day variable is defined. So you get time of day. Hold on. Is this even being used? This is not being used. This is actually something that I think I have to actually,
I think it's above the code there.
yeah, it's not being used. I'm going to actually adjust this. I didn't know that this was like this. I'm gonna remove this in actual code in the course. I'm glad we're even going over it. We're not even using it, but for right here we're not using it. But yeah, as a parameter anyway. So what we want to do is we want to do a few things. So we have the hour, the minute, and the second, right? Before I showed y'all that the hour, minute, and second is here in the HTML, and we have to change the text of these things to match the hour, the minute, and the second. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go inside of this get by ID function, and I'm going to show, and I'm going to go, I'm show you what this does in a second. Right now, we're passing in a string hour, so HR. If we go to the HTML, we can see that this ID is HR, this ID is MIN, this ID is second, and that matches each of these things. That's something to just note. I'm gonna press this button right here, and this goes inside of a function that's inside of the util.js file. We pass it the ID, which is hour. This does the element.get element by ID for us. See, and it gets the div with the ID of HR, and it returns it back to us. That's all this function does for us. What this helps us do is basically not have to write this whole thing every single time. We could have just wrote this on the other side, but I felt like it was better to just write a get by ID function and pass in some ID. The way you do it is going to be done inside of the actual function. So it kind of simplifies our code. Either way, we're returning. See, return value is a div with the ID of HR. And that's passed to this one here, the div with the ID of HR. I'm going to skip over these two because this does the exact same thing. This one got the ID, the div with ID of min. This one got the div with the ID of second. And now we have to get the time of day, basically. Get by ID, it's the same thing. We're basically grabbing the div with the ID of daytime. And we can see that here, the div with the ID of daytime. Okay. And now we're going to start to actually change the text of what's inside of it. Right now, the inner text of the HR is 8. Right now, the inner text of min is 25. The inner text of second is 2. We can see that here, 8, 25, 2. We can even see that this one has the text of PM, and we can hover over this and it says PM right here. But we're going to reset these things to something else. And the thing that we're gonna use to reset them to are a few different functions. So we're passing in hour, minute, and second. And basically this function, what this does is it adds 0 to number if less than 10. For example, if the hour was like 4, it would return back 0, 4 instead of just 4, because on our like actual clock, we don't just display single digits. We always display 2 digits. So I'm gonna click this step into, and that goes into this. We passed it the number, which was 11. If that number was less than 10, we will return back 0 plus the number. Instead, we just want to return back the number since it's already 2 digits. We're going to do the same thing with the minute and the second. I'm gonna just skip over that. And now the hour is 11. The minute is 06. See, because this was 6 right here. So now it's 06. The second is 15. And this one says set daytime. So this, now we got to go to this get time of day function. We'll press this step into. So we start off by getting the time, getting the hour, and we set a default to the time of day to AM. So if this was greater than 11, we would be at PM, but it's not greater than 11, so it's going to skip over that. So we're keeping AM. The only thing we're using, the only reason we're using this is because we want to see like what current number we're on. we could have done this a little bit different. Now that I'm looking at this, what we could have did was we could have passed in the hour into this function instead of doing it this way and then getting an hour back this way. And I'm actually gonna go through this and optimize it to do that. But either way, we're gonna pass back AM because we're still in AM. And that set the last thing that we needed to set. And obviously we're gonna keep running this forever and ever because we're using set interval. And that is what causes this to constantly update. Every single second we're running this code, and this code is updating the HTML to be the current hour, minute, and second. Okay. So now, if there's questions, please ask. If not, I'll just continue to optimize the code.
What is the function of the set interval? Yeah.
What's your question? What was your question? Say it again.
I can see you after 1 minute or 1 second.
I'm sorry, you was breaking up. Like the service was breaking.
I'm having network issue here. So from the on line 62.
62.
Yeah.
Set
interval.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So set interval, and this is actually one of the things I want to optimize as well. Set interval is a function. This takes 2 parameters. So it looks like this, and it takes 2 things. The first thing it takes is the function. So any function you want to pass in, that's the function you pass in. Right now, we passed in an arrow function, and inside of that, we're running a function. But either way, this is the function that we pass in as the first parameter. The second parameter that we pass in is the amount of milliseconds. So ms, so the amount of milliseconds. So every 1,000 milliseconds, which is 1 second, so literally every second is going to run this function right here. Okay, so what I can do to this actually is literally just pass it a function by itself like this. I didn't have to do the arrow function like the way that I just did it. But with the arrow function, basically what this is doing is running this function. And this function itself is running another function, which is redundant, which is why I shouldn't create an arrow function like this. But yeah, it just takes 2 parameters, function and the amount of seconds that you want to keep repeating this over and over again. And this is a built-in JavaScript function. So that's why it's not defined anywhere in our code anyway. But I'm gonna delete this here. And we're gonna see that this does the exact same thing. Pass it a function to run every second or every 1,000 milliseconds. So I'm gonna refresh this, and it should still work. If I scroll down, so it still works. It runs that function every 1,000 milliseconds or every second. And the reason we're doing every second is because we want to update our time every second so that it's accurate. Did I answer your question?
No.
Well, you said it didn't answer your question?
No, I don't have any other question. I got you.
No more questions. Okay, cool. All right, so we'll just continue to optimize this really quick. So I just optimize it this way. Another thing that I want to point out is that inside of each of these things where it says get hour here, get minute, and get second, we're doing some stuff that's very similar. See, this is kind of breaking a rule that and the rule is do not repeat yourself. We're repeating ourselves over and over again. Like we're literally writing the same line over and over again. This is not best practice to do this. And to do this in 3 different spots is actually not good at all, because we're trying to like track time here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put that here instead. And the reason I put it here is because I want each of these to use it as a parameter. Now, whenever we whenever we call this, this is going to reference the same hour, minute, and second that we're currently on. Remember when we was going through this with the debugger, the minute was like 6 or whatever. But the reason the minute was 6 is because we didn't actually cross this line until like 6 minutes after we did the refresh. So that what that tells me is that this gives me the current time, no matter where we are. So if we debug this, the minute is going to change depending, and the second is going to continuously change. And it really just depends on whenever your debugger gets past the line. So by doing it this way, we keep a set minute, we keep a set time, second, and minute. The moment we cross this line, that's going to be set. So we're going to define this once. I'm going to delete that from these functions. I'm going to just pass it in here, time. I'm going to get rid of these parentheses because we don't need that. We have one parameter here. So time, we'll do that here as well. And here as well. All right, so that's one thing. So we passed in time, we did the get hour, get minute, get second. Okay. And to be completely honest, I can simplify this even more. I can say, actually, no, I'm gonna keep it like this. I'm gonna keep it like this. So I passed in time, and that should work. Let me actually refresh to be sure that this still works really quick. Show projects, scroll down. And yes, this still works. Okay. Now, let me go through this and make sure there's nothing else. We have set hours. We're passing an hour, minute, and second. I'm gonna go here. We have hour, minute, and second. And time of day. This function I need to update because we're using this again. Let me make sure we're not using this anywhere else. Okay. So we're using that again. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to pass in hour because we needed the hour. That's the reason why we did this in the first place. I'm going to delete this and this. So we just passed in an hour. And I'm going to pass that here as a parameter inside of the get time of day here. Let me save this really quick. I'm going to go back here, refresh to make sure everything still works. Okay, everything still works. We don't have any errors in the console. Oh, this is that file that's missing from earlier. But yeah, so everything still works here. And now I'm gonna break this down a little bit further. Because we have an if statement here and there's only 2 conditions, what we can do is we can turn this into a ternary operator instead. And a ternary operator, just as a quick reminder, is you basically give it a condition, put a question mark. If that condition is true, we return this. If that condition is false, we return that. Right. So this is a true. That's if it's true, and this we return this if it's false. So what we're going to do is with this condition, we're going to say is hour greater than 11. Put that there. If hour is greater than 11, we're going to return PM. If it's not greater than 11, we're going to return AM here. And we can put this whole thing on this line right here, and we can delete all of this stuff. See? Ternary operator. And we're going to simplify this even further. But just to recap, this is the condition, and this does not need to be inside of parentheses. I put it here just so we can see it better. This is the condition here. If this is true, then we return this. If it's false, then we return this one here. That's what this does. Okay. Let me save this. Let me make sure it still works before I simplify it even further. So this still works. Everything's still good. Now what I'm gonna do is, because we're using arrow functions and we only have one line inside of here, and we're returning one thing. What we can do is we can remove these curly brackets here, and we can delete the return statement, and this still works. Put this up on this line right here. So now we simplify this even further. We passed in the hour. We're using a ternary operator to give us back PM or AM, and we're returning that. The reason we know that we're returning it is because we're using the arrow function, and arrow functions return anything, return if we're only using one line, basically. That's what that does. If I refresh, open this up, and we can see the same thing here. Okay. So I simplified that. Let me make sure there's nothing else for me to simplify. And we can actually simplify these ones as well. Get minute and get second. Instead of defining minute inside of a variable and then returning it, what we can do is we can just put this whole thing here on a return statement and just return that. We save this, and I'm gonna do the same thing here for second. We're doing the same thing here. I'm just gonna put this here instead and just return that. So now we're doing one less step inside of each of these functions. Go here, refresh. Make sure it still works. Everything still works here. And just like we did here with the one-liner, since we only have one thing in here and we're returning something, I'm going to delete the curly brackets here because we don't need that. And I'm going to delete the return statement and leave it like that. So delete the curly brackets and delete the return statement and return it just like that. Save this. Go back, refresh. Open this up. And it still works.
Yeah, but can we do this with a normal function?
Not a normal function. No, we can't. Nope. Yeah, this is the benefit. That's a good question. This is the benefit of using arrow functions. You can't do it with a normal function. So if you have something like this, function get min, something like this, return like whatever. You can't just return. You can't delete these. It's going to not know what it's not even gonna know what you're trying to do here. Even if we do this, it's like, oh, what is that? But yeah, that's the power of using arrow functions. Good question. Let me continue to simplify this because I think that we can simplify this even further. We have two conditions here. Well, it's kind of implicit, it's not explicit, but if this number is less than 10, we're going to return this. If the number is not less than 10, we're going to return this. So we can put this inside of a ternary operator as well, and we're going to simplify this even further. So remember, it was condition true. If the condition is true, we're going to return that. False if this condition is false. So I'm going to put this condition. If the number is less than 10, we're going to return this right here. Put that there. If the number is greater than 10, we're going to return this one here. Like that. And okay, cool. So, and I'm going to basically remove this here and return all of this stuff. We put that here, just like that. So now we're using a ternary. And because we're using a ternary, I can delete, because we're using the ternary and we only have one line, I can now delete these curly brackets right here and delete the return statement right there. And this is the exact same thing. I'm going to save this, go back to the browser and refresh. And it has the exact same thing here. See, still works. And we have no errors, except for that very first one we dealt with in the beginning of class. Let me actually get rid of that error really quick. Go here and new file, OOP helper.js. I think that should remove that error. Yeah, so now that's removed. Okay. All right. So to simplify this down even further, we could, let me see if we can do something with this. We have our, yeah, we can turn this into a ternary as well. So again, we have condition, question mark, we have the true, and we have the false. So the condition is this here, put that there. The true statement is this is what we want to return, each minus 12, right? If false, we want to just keep the hour the same. So I'm gonna delete this, and this, and I'm gonna move this thing to this return here. Save this. I'm gonna go back to the browser, refresh, open this up, and everything still looks good. And we have no errors here. Let me see if I can simplify this down even further. Let's see. Yeah, I think that is everything actually. Yeah, that's as simplified as we can get. Now, what I should have done was look at how many lines this took up. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna Control Z this. Right now, we're at line 38, but I'm gonna do a Control Z. So we're at line 38 and we have, how many characters is this? We have 908 characters selected, okay? I'm doing Control Z just so we can get back to what this looked like before I did all of these changes. And this is literally just to show you the power of arrow functions, okay? So now this is line 64. So we went from line 64 all the way to line 38, and we went from 908 selected characters to, we went from 1,234 selected characters down to 908 characters selected. So we did a lot of and I'm putting it back, by the way. I'm reversing what I just did. So we basically did a lot of simplification. We cut out a lot of variables and we lowered the amount of lines of code that we actually have to read. That's the power of arrow functions and why, we should actually just use arrow functions. It cuts down the amount of it cuts down the number of characters you use, which ultimately helps you to be bug free, to help you, the more code you write, the more chance of something breaking in your code. And that's just that's just the reality. So you're writing less here. And you're also helping the next person that goes through your code to read it a little bit easier, because now they have less things to read. And before I forget, this was an extra parameter that I need to delete because we're not actually using it. And the reason we know that we're not using it is because we can see that this is not highlighted. It's like kind of dim. These parameters are highlighted, hour, minute, and second, but time of day is not. So I'm gonna delete that because we're not actually using that. And save this. And I think that is as simplified as we're gonna get this. So what we're gonna do again is take a quick 5-minute break. We'll come back at 11:37, and then we'll just move on to something else, to another project. I'll see everybody back in 5 minutes. Okay, so it is 11:37, and yeah, so just a quick recap. We learned that we could shorten these functions using arrow functions so that we can have a lot less characters here. And we're also, every time we create a function, we want each of these functions to do one thing. It has one task to it, not more than one, just one task to it. So this one adds a number. If less than 10, this one gets the hour, gets the minute, gets the second, get the time of day, get the set the HTML. This one sets the dates, and that's this is executed within the set time. I mean, set the set interval, which calls this function every 1,000 milliseconds or every 1 second. So what I'll do is I'll end class off today with any questions that's from anybody. And as always, I'll just take silence as, you know, we're golden, everything's good. So any questions from the class? Okay, cool. So we will meet on, so you'll still meet on Tuesday. What I want everybody to do on Tuesday is to do another Code Wars problem. I'm going to add those directions in the Slack channel as well, just so that you have them there as well. But Tuesday, you're going to do the Code Words problem with the TAs, and yeah, you know, we'll just continue. And also, what I want everybody to do as well is make sure y'all go over everything. Make sure y'all go over, you know, opening the project slide. I expect all of these videos to be done before Sunday. And I also want the time app section to be done as well. So literally all of these videos to be done. And when y'all do these, I want y'all to practice these on your own. Like I don't want you to just go through the videos and just write as I write. And obviously you can do that at first, but then I want you to go back with it, you know, on a blank slate and try to do it on your own. Okay, make sure you truly understand those. And before Sunday, what I also want y'all to do is the tip calculator. Okay. We're going to be doing a tip calculator on Sunday. And I want you to go over the color psychology as well. I may just quickly run through the color psychology one. So that's project 4. Don't worry so much about the password generator yet. We'll take care of this like 2 Sundays from now, or we may even skip this one actually. And I'll give you more direction on that. The only thing I want you to, the first I want y'all to go is the color psychology. So go through every single video, make sure y'all understand all of those projects, and we'll go through and do color psychology and tip calculator on Sunday. All right. So if there's no questions, I will see everybody on Sunday. All right. See ya.